Welcome, Guardians. Today we are going through my tier list of the Tower NPC characters in no particular order. Gonna be a long one, most likely, so grab a drink, grab a snack, grab a seat, and we begin. Cade the Gunslinger, the Hunter Vanguard and one of my favorite Destiny characters, if not my most favorite. His unique, carefree take on the world is one that made him stand out compared to others in the tower. While, yes, he was probably created to be just that comedic relief, I would say most people liked him compared to others because he was a huge part of our missions, whether it's just over comms or actually in the Vanguard room handing missions out to us. He even played a bigger role to us in the Taken King by getting us on that dreadnought, even though Zavala was against it. And then in Destiny 2 to rescue him in Nessus. If I remember correctly, he had the most amount of missions until he made it back to the tower. And then Forsaken came around and Banshee showed us that the main characters that we know and love are not safe and invincible. They killed Cade off in the first mission of the DLC. I honestly have never had more of a feeling to a character and their actions before that moment. For all these reasons and the impact he has had on me in the game, I place him in the S tier. Zavala, the Titan Vanguard and the Vanguard Commander. While he has had some iconic lines that have been turned into memes and will never die within the Destiny community, I don't like him. He was initially the badass Titan Vanguard, but as we get more from him, he seems to be more of a selfish guy that only cares about his position as commander and the light. He was so worried about starting a war that he didn't want to go and avenge Cade, who is one of his best friends and a fire team member. And he's just kind of whiny. Honestly, the only thing that has kept him out of the F tier are those iconic lines that we all love. So that's why he's in the D tier. Ikora, the mentee of Osiris and the Warlock Vanguard. During D1, I was kind of indifferent to her, but she has gained personality and has had some amazing moments. Two of best moments that we've ever seen from her, I'd say, were during the Red War campaign when she had 2 back-to-back Nova Bombs. Then in Curse of Osiris when she used the light to open the portal to the Infinite Forest. She was the one that wanted to go and avenge Cade, which was a very welcoming change to her character. While we haven't necessarily heard much from her recently, I'm excited to see her involvement in Witch Queen and beyond. But other than that, I enjoy her being in the story because she isn't scared to go out on a limb and do something brave and risky like bringing the Fallen into the city for safety. For that, she's in the B tier and might even move up come Witch Queen. Shax the Crucible Handler. I would love to get more story about this legendary Titan because he has been around for so long, has been through some stuff. We did get some little bit of involvement at the beginning of the Red War campaign, but not nearly enough, and we have gotten snippets here and there in the lore. But most gamers will know Shax by his amazing lines during the Crucible matches, and those lines are pretty much what I'm going off of, so we don't honestly have much about him, and those lines give him an S tier. Banshee, the Tower Gunsmith, has been around and involved in the story daily life of Guardian since day 1 of Destiny 1. While he wasn't the most interesting character for a while, since in D1 he was mainly just used for Armory Day every Wednesday and to purchase weapons since for the most part, but he was there. Bungie has made him a more useful vendor as he deals with the catalyst each season, giving him some character development, showing that his memory is starting to fail him. Then Beyond Light was released and we learned so much about his original and 43 exo lives before his current life that he's actually the legendary Clovis Bray. Before all the Beyond Light stuff, Banshee would probably be a lot lower than what I'm going to give him, which is actually an A tier. Amanda Holliday, the Tower's Ship Handler. Gonna get some people with this one. Is forgettable to say the least. She has had some amazing moments within the Red War and the Season of the Chosen in terms of dialogue. Outside of that, she isn't used for anything. other than Twitch Prime rewards. Her inventory doesn't even offer anything useful. I would say she would be in F tier, but those moments of dialogue moves her into the D tier. Valhul, the Tower Cryptarch. Do I really have to explain this one at all? He was used a bunch in D1 to actually decrypt engrams, and he would screw plenty of guardians during that time from decrypting exotics or legendaries into blues, and then swing the other way and decrypt blues into exotics or legendaries. He even rank up packages after you've decrypted a certain number of engrams. Then D2 came around and he was pretty much stripped of all responsibilities and is only being used for prime engrams. No rank up rewards, and well, now also decrypts unfocused umbral engrams come Witch Queen. This man could be even more useless than Amanda somehow. He gets an F, the first F tier in this. Speaker, one that not many might know, but he was a main character in D1 in terms of story, and we would usually go meet with him fairly often, and he would have a couple of pieces of unique armor, but other than that, he wasn't much. Then D2 came out and Bungie killed him off, but I think they were expecting that to have a much larger impact on the players than it actually did, because while I was surprised, I honestly didn't really care about his death. I'm gonna give him a C tier purely for the amount of story that he was involved with in D1. My main man, Cade, I don't know, we're gonna go with Cade. The Postmaster is by far the best character within the Destiny universe. I don't give a shit what you say. The best. You're gonna think I'm crazy. This damn robot goes into the activities after us and will collect all of the stuff that has been left behind. Like, who else could be so daring to do that? For that, Cade gets an S tier. Gotta give it to him. Tess, the Eververse store lady. Don't think I even need to explain this one at all, but she gets an F tier and would be a double F if it could even be possible. Moving on from that shit show of Tess, we got Ava, the Tower Grandma and seasonal vendor. Holiday vendor, I don't know what to call her. In D1, she was all about fashion, emblem, shaders, all that stuff. She would have been a great person for transmog. But then in D2, she transitioned into more of like the holiday special event vendor. I don't have much to say about her lovely space grandma. Then she's just kind of there and does her job. She's not a bad vendor, but she's there. So I give her a B tier. Saladin, one of the last remaining Iron Lord and Iron Banner handler. He's been all over the freaking place lately. Oh my god. He was initially the Iron Banner handler until Rise of Iron when Ephrodite took over, so Saladin could assist us with Siva. Then D2 comes out and he's back to being the Iron Banner handler, because that makes sense. But then in Season of the Chosen, he decides to be the main person to lead us against Cade. But then he doesn't give up Iron Banner responsibilities. Like, yeah, it just makes sense. I love when Saladin's in a story because he's a much more unique character and has a more aged outlook to everything compared to Zavala. But they don't use him nearly enough. And for that, he gets a C tier. Drifter, the Rogue Lightbearer, showed up during Forsaken with the new mode of Gambit and pretty much took over the role that Cade had of comedic relief. Now, Drifter hasn't been around as long as some characters, but he's already been involved in so much more story, which is actually very welcoming. While I'm not the biggest fan of his, since I get kind of that sketchy vibe, he's still a lot better than others, and his story has been very interesting, which is why, honestly, gets an A tier. Hawthorne, our clan vendor, was huge during the Red War campaign, and I actually enjoyed her in the story because it showed we didn't need the light to survive. But she was whiny during it, which put her off a little bit. Like, don't go to Titan, stay here. Now, She just stands next to Ikora in the tower, just says the same freaking annoying lines over and over again. Her only saving grace is her lovely bird, Lewis. And for that, she gets a C tier. Should just made this about Lewis and not Hawthorne. Ada won that Black Armory Protector, now Outfitter for Guardians. She opened up the Black Army to Guardians way back the Season of the Forge, which I think was Season 5. While it was a little scuffed at first due to her concern with us, we have come a long way. This opened the door to Niobe Labs, Forges, the amazing exotics of the Toaster, Jotun, the Monarch, and Izanagi's Burden. But then the Destiny content vault happened, and the Forges got put in there, and players thought we had lost Ada forever, as, oddly enough, many people simped over her. But then we got Transmog, and she's in charge of it, which is a little strange. Her character development from the moment the Black Armory door opened to the end of the season, and then into Transmog, has been more than some characters have ever gotten, which is amazing. She does slightly bother me a little bit, and I'm not entirely sure why, so she gets an A tier. Crow, living in the dead body of Uldren Solve, is our story example of a new light, and very possible our next speaker in the heir to the Hunter Vanguard position. Crow's character development has been next level. Honestly, has been a lot of people's new favorite character, and a lot of people's least character, which is interesting. While he has been unsure about his past life and didn't quite know why he had to be so secretive during the previous seasons, until Savathun showed him and he went off the deep end. I'm loving the character, but he can be a little whiny at times, and I'm kind of getting annoyed of it. I do love that he can transform from such a hated character in the terms of Uldren Solve to a such loved character today, which is why he comes in at an A tier. Osiris, the former Warlock Vanguard, mentor of Ikora, partner of Saint 14, most recently Savathun. When we first met Osiris, he was deep inside the Infinite Forest, and I would classify him as the most badass warlock. But then towards the end of the story, we got a little bit more personality from him, which makes me feel like he's more of a friend and less like a legend, oddly enough. He grew even more when we learned about the Sundial and how he created it to try to save Saint 14 from death. I feel like he'd be even higher on this list if he wasn't actually Savathun the past year. That's all I can think about in terms of him, even though he's been in the story so much lately. I give this man a B tier. Saint 14, the most legendary Titan to ever live. And oddly enough, a huge pigeon lover. We've learned so much about this Titan, from figuring out that he was dead, to saving him from death, reconnecting him with his partner Osiris, and then helping him become pretty much a family member for the Fallen instead of an enemy. We've also seen a lot of character growth from this man in such a short amount of time, but we've learned so much about him in a longer amount of time. I can't wait to get even more story from him and his development. I'd put him in the S tier, but he can just be so intense sometimes. I feel like it's only getting more intense in Witch Queen, but I put him in A tier. This is all for my tower NPC/character tier list. I'm going to do another one of these in the future for the destination characters, so like Asher Mir, Sloan, Anna Bray, Rasputin, things like that. But honestly, these are one of my most favorite videos to make, because I'm not really having to sit there and nitpick per se or critique items. I can just truly give my opinion about characters, not how they can improve. But till next time, Guardians, stay safe.